Welcome to The Criminologist, the podcast dedicated to educating and entertaining our listeners. We bring you subject matter experts from around the world and share the latest and greatest evidence-based practices and interventions to help individuals desist from a life of crime and delinquency. Now, please welcome the host of The Criminologist, Joseph Arvidson.
Hello and welcome to episode 211 of the Criminologist Podcast. Happy to have you all with us today. This week, we are bringing you another very special guest. I am honored to introduce Arshad Mahmood, a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in criminal justice. Arshad Mahmood is known for his skills in policy and strategy development, having worked with diverse teams in inclusive settings. He has headed the Probation and Parole Service of the Home Department in Punjab, Pakistan, and has extensive experience consulting with judges, policymakers, and civil society members. His work with organizations such as the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNICEF, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, Penal Reform International, and INL, the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs Agency, have significantly contributed to criminal justice reforms. Arshad has also been active in raising awareness against violence targeting women, children, and vulnerable populations through national media. His journey from practitioner to team leader has been marked by continuous learning and collaboration with international entities, including the National Probation Service for England and Wales, as well as the International Corrections and Prison Association. Without further ado, let's dive into my engaging conversation with Arshad Mahmood, joining us all the way from his home in Pakistan, and I will see you all on the other side. Well, welcome to the Criminologist Podcast, Arshad. So glad we could finally get you on the show. I feel like we've been endeavoring to connect for several months, if not longer, but I am thrilled to have you here. The Criminologist Podcast prides itself on its global reach, and I can say I'm happy to now have added to that list an individual from Pakistan. So really, really looking forward to getting your perspectives on a lot of the topics that we talk about in the field of criminology, corrections, probation, and parole. Why don't we start off, Arshad, just maybe introduce yourselves briefly to the audience, maybe touch on some of your career highlights educationally, vocationally, and, what really motivated you to pursue a career in criminal justice, and maybe share what some of your journey's been like.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you very much for inviting me over the Criminologist podcast. I'm really privileged that the reach of the criminologist is across the world, and your voice is getting listened by like-minded people and also the social scholars across the world. And let me introduce myself, Joe. As my name, I'm Arshad Mahmood from Pakistan. I have graduated in sociology, and afterwards I changed the subject to political science. And during my study in the graduation level, I studied almost number of things about the human behavior, the society, the community, norms, culture, and the social fabrics of a society. And a society as something which is normal to one society may be different or abnormal considered by the other society. And it was really very interesting subject. And during my study, I also acquainted and learned a lot of things about role and scope of sociology, social work, how the people behave with others, how they communicate and affect each other, interact with each other, and sometimes they show positive behavior, and sometimes they show negative behavior, which negative impacting on the overall fabrics of the society, which also causes some disturbance in this harmony, social harmony of different components of the society. And I also learned about the deviant behavior, the not normal or the antisocial behavior, about people sometimes they show anti-cultural or anti-social or deviant behavior in the shape of some deprivation of their basic needs, deprivation of how they behave with other people, deprivation of their socialization process, and other things they also lack while making their personality during their process of personality development. And when I studied and reached to the subject of deviant or antisocial behavior, it impacted me a lot. And I developed sort of number of interest to knowing more in depth how can antisocial behavior can be de-learned, because deviant behavior or antisocial behavior is not inherited. It is learned from the society, from the associates, companions. And I was thinking about a number of things, that if we learn sort of behavior from normal, which is considered normal, and they also learn sort of antisocial deviant behavior, how can they can be de-learned by making approach, making vision, through education, through addressing their basic needs on human rights or rights-based human rights, society and culture. Why different people show different behavior? This is due to their nourishment, their how they are cultured in different parts of the society. Then I reached to the conclusion that this is due to the gaps. This is due to the gaps which occurred during their personality development process. And when these blacks such gaps are plugged in, and we bridge that, and we provide the same facilities as the normal people have, they also show sort of human behavior, the cultured behavior. They're more moral, and they are more positive, impacting to other fellow citizens. And that's why on reaching on this, I really inclined to adopt or get some job in the public sector or in the private sector, where the human behavior is addressed, where the negative traits of the man or human, focusing girls, women, and vulnerable groups of people are addressed. That's why I was lucky to join the probation department as probation officer in the Punjab provincial capital, Lahore, in Pakistan, which is also called the heart of the country, heart of the nation. My native city is Lahore, which is also a heart of the whole Pakistan, where every people come and cross their paths, and they find every people living in Lahore are very happy people. They always welcome other people. And I inducted as probation officer in the probation service and started my career as probation officer, Joe. Thank you.
Arshad, talk about that experience. As you just noted, you were the former head of the Punjab Provincial Probation and Parole Service after starting out as a probation officer. But Tell us maybe about some of those experiences you had implementing probation and parole in the Punjab Provincial Probation and Parole Service, rather. For example, you talked about, and I love this, your approach of viewing these gaps in development and addressing the fact that our high risk clients, that we have to de-learn those behaviors. I just love that approach, and I've got some experience, of course, training around the world, and I'm always fascinated by the even minor sort of contextual, societal, or cultural differences in implementing, even say, the risk need responsivity framework. So maybe share with the audience some of those experiences working in the Punjab Provincial Probation and Parole Service.
Thank you, Joe. When a soldier is recruited in the army, he wishes that he would be the head of this, or the CEO, the commanding officer of this unit or his company. I recruited and inducted as probation officer, and my wish was that I would be leading the probation service. And thank God, my dream fulfilled. And I was taken the role as the head of the probation service in the Punjab, which is the largest province in Pakistan, comprising having population around 110 million people. And it was my privilege to provide support and health services to people, particularly the people from the vulnerable group of society. Focusing women, focusing girls, minorities, and children. And children are the most delicate creatures ever created by God. And I love children to the extent that no children should be incarcerated, that no children who brought in contact with the criminal justice system should not be languished in prisons or in institutional places. Because family is the fundamental unit of any society. No unit less than family can regroom, can de-learn the antisocial or deviant behavior. And society is family is the basic and fundamental unit. That's why before taking my role as chief probation officer, the probation service was very much there. The probation laws was very much there, and the criminal justice actors, the judges, the courts are also making probation orders. But every component, particularly the probation service, was working in silos. I started looking around that the eggshells should be broken, and the lives inside the cell should be come out, given more sparkling effect to lead from the front for the services and better human rights approach, with a vision that every probation officer should be a friend to his or client, and who would connect or cement that bond of probation officer with their client as the one man, and try to de-learn, try to motivate people who are brought with some reasons in the criminal justice system, whether they are needs basis. And before treating or taking prognostic measures, they need to evolve or use the best R&R approach, risk, need, responsivity, based on the risk assessment factors. And before my tenure as a controlling officer of the probation service, things were there. People were working with their making or involving individual approaches. But I started taking help of other stakeholders from the public sectors, from the civil society organizations, from national and international NGOs, working for the betterment of bringing reforms in the criminal justice system and spreading the justice across the board at every level, whether out of school children, they are deprived of education, they need help, health needs, their hygienic problems, or whether they are handicapped due to developing sort of mental health issues. And I tried, though the task was giant, very challenging, but I started from brick by brick, building the whole building as I see that it was the building that can be reshaped, redesigned, and giving at the and erected on the face of the society. That this is the building from where people come out to the help and support of those people who are poorly placed, who deprived of education facilities, or they don't have sort of access to justice actors, justice sector approach, the police, the prisons, and to some greater extent, I was successful in achieving my landmarks, my keystones, step by step and brick by brick. And I was lucky that now I have developed developed a collaborative system with a collaborative approach, and envisioning that nobody can make changes alone, because alone we are nothing. United we are strength and we are strong. And that's the reason I invited and seek the help of international bodies like UNODC, UNICEF, Penal Reforms International, BFID, and many other who have been continually working inside Pakistan, bringing justice reforms, access to justice programs, and access to justice to all inclusive approach. And people living in the scattered in the downtown, in the very poorly placed districts where they don't have even neat and pure drinking water, they don't have shelter, appropriate shelters. And I reached out to those vulnerable segment of society, but focusing merely on women, girls, juveniles, minorities, and those who have involved in less serious offenses. And I was privileged that the UNICEF came and bringing, we have developed a project, Juvenile Justice System Reforms. And we first time utilized the role and scope of the diversion and restorative justice, diversion approach for the juveniles, reparation of harms they have caused to their victims, and also there are sort of mediation and mediation facilities, mediation approach involving the offenders, their parents and families, and the victims, bringing on the same footings that some offenders have done a sort of harm to their society, some to victim, because when a person commits crime, it's not a crime against society. It's a crime against whole state. It's a crime against the victim. That's why I was successful bringing this approach involving collaboration of UNODC and other international organizations. And I was very successful, really. And God supported me at all levels. And where I put my feet, put my hands, I brought a number of treasures, humorous treasures, and numerous treasures for the larger interests and for the larger benefits of society, reaching out to the grassroots levels. And that was the reason. I am also a very, you will be happy to know that I'm one of the advocates of bringing social change, systemic social change, bringing justice at the root cause level. But and also causing sort of rippling effect. Now, if I have left the probation service, I'm working with other organizations like ITAD. I was the external reviewer of the strategy, policy, and program plans with ITAD when they were developing in the developing phase of the Porticus criminal justice portfolio. And I was one of their external reviewer. And I was very successful learning about the dignity and respect of those who have been put behind the bar due to certain distortion, the certain antisocial behavior. But I understand that the person, if he's behind the bar or is free in the society, moving everywhere at his own will and consent, both are human. Everybody should be treated as human being on the human rights based approach. And I was really very satisfied. I relax. I have a very sound sleep when I feel that I have done a lot of work, bringing my role and scope of job description beyond box. I have stretched my hands far beyond my job description, my job areas. That's why I have been considered by the people working in the non-profit sector and people working in the public sector and in civil society organization that I am also a person belong to NGOs. But when I work with the public sector, they feel that I belong to only public sector official. That's why I stretch my hands across the board, across my areas and my jurisdiction. And this was the main reason I'm bringing very positive impacting results coming out from my vision, the role and support of my colleagues. Like now, Joe, I learned a lot from you. And you are everywhere. Follow your footsteps. When you go there, I am following your footsteps. I am also very admiring, praising sort of other criminal justice professionals, like other people very close. You working with the criminal justice Probation Institute Barcelona, and you and the Global Justice Resource Center. And particularly, I have also contributed my expertise and knowledge skills everywhere, even in England. I have contributed a lot of things there. When there was a very crucial issue, critical issue arising child sexual trafficking, grooming. And I contributed my expertise as a social scholar, as criminologist, or as a probation person. And using my expertise, I contributed them. And really, they were very appreciative of me that my role, sport there, was very helpful for them. And Joe, I want to know more about from you what you are doing from the Criminologist channel and using your psychological education, your vision, and I see you are a single person, but I see you everywhere across the world. Sometimes I see in Barcelona, sometimes I see in Belgium, sometimes I see you in USA, tackling some different people. I've learned I have taken you as an iconic personality, taking vision of yours, and you are really sparked and enlightened my role and scope.
My heart is singing right now, Arshad. You've made my day with your praise. I appreciate you. But to your point about my travels and my arguably global reach, kind of the same page that you're on, Arshad, as far as we have so much we can learn from each other. So much we can learn from our various global perspectives and our implementation struggles. I'm curious to ask you, I just heard you referencing, bless you, my work in Barcelona. In fact, I'll be returning to the International Training School on Core Correctional Skills once again this coming October. But one of the experiences that I've taken out of that training school is when we are training practitioners, say from Central or Eastern Europe, that have relatively newer probation systems, anywhere from 20 to 25 years. A lot of that correlates, of course, with the fall of the former Soviet Union. I forget which country it is. Forgive me out there, listeners. I want to say Estonia, but don't quote me on that. But there's a system out there, for example, that we were training some of their probation officers, and their entire probation system was only 5 years old. So they didn't have a lot of bad habits to unlearn. Like, for example, here in the United States, where we've had probation a lot longer and we're still struggling, sadly at times, to even get folks to adhere to the risk need responsivity framework. But I'm curious, in Pakistan, what was that history like with your probation services when you began to insert not just the risk needs responsivity framework, but any of these so-called core correctional skills? What was that experience like? Had they had some experience with probation before evidence-based practices, or was it, as I said, more like those countries where we're just going to learn this, for lack of a better term, the proper way, and we don't have to undo bad mistakes?
Oh, thank you, Joe. Our system of probation was lagging behind in the sense that in the modern and advanced criminal justice jurisdictions, the Probation of Offenders Ordinance and the Parole Act, conditional release of prison on license, is around 1926. And the Probation Offenders Ordinance promulgated in 1960.
Okay.
But before that, there is provision in the criminal justice system that the person who has committed less serious offense, considering their age, their antecedents of crime, their social and economic status of society, their family and educational level, vocational level, it was considered by the judges and magistrates to decide about the fate of the person who has been proceeded against under the criminal justice system. But very much it was formal when it was enforced in the shape of the criminal justice probation of offenders law in 1960s and the rules in 1960s, one a bit. And, the risk R&R approach was not there. It was just using discretionary powers by the judges and the courts, whether this person should be sentenced to prison or should be given a chance to, or some. There is also a provision that they should be released on conditions if the person is previously non-convict, has not committed any offense earlier. But after the promulgation of the probation law in 1960, there was very much provision placed in the Section 5 of the ordinance that before reaching an appropriate decision against the offender, the court has to consider the social, the economic, mental health, hygiene, or health condition of the person, and also take into consideration the needs base, whether he is poorly placed person, has living in rural areas or coming from urban setup, and that was the main reason to decide the fate. And for this purpose, the probation officer prepared sort of social inquiry report to know about or dig about the main factors, the static factors leading to criminal justice, criminal behavior, crime behavior. And afterwards, he has put in the report, the probation has put in the report his recommendations, how to deal with the dynamic factors of any offender who has committed sort of a crime. And but when I take the role as head of the probation service, before that I worked in a justice support system program, which was in collaboration with the Deferred Sport, British High Commission in Pakistan. And I worked with the Adam Smith International as a consultant advisor, prison probation and parole advisor. And we developed there a number of things. And basically now we moved right from making social inquiry report to preparing pre-sentence report, risk needs assessment, and how to develop, how to deal with the offenders based on the needs. If the needs are addressed, we reduce offending behavior. We reduce recidivism rate. We make some better chances to reconnect such people, such incarcerated, formerly convicted persons, reconnect with their families and their communities as constructive, law-abiding citizens. And it proved very much positive, creating sort of positive impacting results. Now, side by side, we started convening, conducting motivational sessions. How to reconnect with their family, with their community, and with those people who are victims of the crime. And it was very much targeting the bull, and gave sort of positive approach in the session, that where we developed a number of other things like electronic monitoring, use of radio frequency, and global geographical positioning, GPS. And we made evidence-informed approach, evidence-based approach by conducting key informant interviews with the people, with the all legal fraternity, with the judges, with the courts, prison and parole officers, and other civil society actors, the members of the NGOs, and the staff of the probation service, the police and the prosecutors also. That when we sensitize each and every stakeholder that these are the human beings, and after completing their sentencing order, they will be back to the community. If their criminal or offending behavior is not addressed, they will be again the problem for the community and the society. And we made persistent, very striving approach, very hard approach, struggled, sensitizing judges, magistrates, and the courts and their staff, the police and the prosecutors, that please do this sort of things, that they are our fellow citizens. When we are sitting on facing the society, our role as a public person, but when we are on the other side of the table, we are the child, we are the complainant, we are the victims, or maybe we will be the offenders. But putting the approach together, whether sitting on the other side of the table or as taking the chair of an executive or the police officer, we are the part of the main society. We go in the evening to our communities, to our fellow members, fellow citizens. That's why would need to deal with them delicate hands, not with iron hands, and set aside the punitive and the retribution approach, giving the larger space for rehabilitation and reformation of such people who have brought in contact with the criminal justice.
Arshad, I absolutely love that system-wide holistic approach that you're taking in Pakistan. I wrote a quote down, if I'm getting it accurate, but you're essentially saying that the key is involving or addressing justice across the board at every level. As you said, bringing all those stakeholders in. One of my contentions here in the United States is that we're so fractured in our systems. We get so into our individual silos that those stakeholders don't communicate, and it comes at the cost of the individual that we're trying to help. And I love the international approach you're taking. You talked about bringing in NGOs into Pakistan, and of course, your travels, as you said, speaking at conferences. I know you were in London not too long ago, speaking at an international conference. And again, I'm on that same page as you, as just learning from each other as a community and sharing those success stories, sharing those failures, sharing those implementation struggles. In that vein, Arshad, what do you see as the future direction for criminal justice reform in Pakistan, especially concerning probation and parole services? And to that theme, what do you envision for international collaboration in that process?
Oh, thank you, Joe. As I discussed earlier, that alone we cannot do anything. United we are strength and we are very strong. And when we are moving forward with collaborative approach, we are one body. And we are living now we are living in a global village. It's succeed. There is no distance. We both are living at poles and 10 hours time, geographical time distance. But we are together here. The use of technology, the use of collaborative approach, and the experience, knowledge, skills of every professional living in any part of any geographical area in the world. When we see in the conference, we see hundreds of people coming there, participating in the international conference. Like in ICPA, I have a very live experience meeting, interacting professional with diverse professional backgrounds, but their approach was very centric. They were very converging approach. The approach is we need justice-based society at all levels, at all criminal justice jurisdictions, whether it is in Africa, whether it is Asia, whether in Europe or Latin America, or when you go in the Middle East and the Far East Asians. We are human beings. We are very delicate mind and brains, and our thinking can change the world. I am alone can't change the world. But when we bring synergies and energies and potential, bringing together on a single page, we can change the life of a single person. We can bring social change across the board at the grassroots level. And when we talk about the systemic social change, it would mean, that it is the justice, all sectors, justice in the education, justice in the psychology, in the health sector, in the criminal justice. Using this one approach, right-based approach, being human, we can change things. Now, you talked about reforms, criminal justice reforms in Pakistan. We can't do alone. every person, every professional, when cross their paths, and at any time, not just that I've not seen you. We are meeting, interacting virtually, but we feel that we are physically in person together. That was the reason, through utilizing collaborative approach and role and performance and using expertise of international actors, international organizations. As I studied in whilst doing master's degree program, I studied international organization. When we talk about international organization, it is they are all working under the umbrella of UN, United Nations, and we are the nation states are bound to frame our policies and strategies in line with the national and international minimum standards, whether in the social fabrics or whether in the criminal justice system reform. And as we are very much related to criminal justice system, I'm very hopeful that the main thing is the preparation. Main thing is the spade work. Main thing is when you excavating, making foundation or digging out the foundation of the fabrics of any edifice or a building. We have done a lot. We have consumed a very large time, big span, time frame and space. Now, I'm very hopeful that with the using collaborative approach, the international organization, when collaborate with Pakistan, bringing reforms in the justice sector, on the social justice sector, across all grassroots level. Now, people think every citizen, whether individual, whether they're working collectively, they think they cannot work in silos. They work together in making united forums. And that's why I'm very hopeful that other NGOs, international organization, or any professional who has some funding, because spending is earning. When we invest in people, when we invest in reforms, we can save a big amount, larger amount of financial exchequers. We are spending huge amount incarcerating people using prison sentencing. But if we put a chip of financial resources diverting from prison establishment to the community corrections, we can achieve much better results. We can achieve de-learn. We can unlearn sort of antisocial or inappropriate behavior and bringing social harmony, homogenizing community at all levels, at all grassroots levels. And you are really the bridge. I'm not boasting you. Actually, I'm making you understand that you are doing a giant task. You are bringing people together. You are building bridges. And we are making foundations at our societies, at our communities, in our communities. And while you're making bridges, bringing your thoughts, your visions, using the local resources, community involvement, you can develop sort of the global justice system approach. And we are very fortunate talking on the same page, on the same point, that justice should not be justice, that people are in the community, people are not sent to prison. Justice at all level, holistic approach. Everybody do their task at their own individual and collective level. You have really moved me.
You're too kind, Arshad. You are too kind. I really appreciate you. And I'm so glad we finally got a chance to connect, as you said, virtually here, but it feels like we're sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
Let's conclude. Let me ask you this, Arshad. What advice would you have for aspiring professionals who are looking about getting into the field of criminal justice, particularly those interested in probation and parole and juvenile justice? What advice would you give to young practitioners just starting out in the field?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Most recently, I have developed training instruction manual for the parole and probation officers in the Punjab Probation Service, where the main key point, the essence of that instruction manual is you are actually the motivational people. You are actually the change makers. You are actually the actors to contribute your role in the national building process. And actually, you will not earn as much as a consultant or an advisor or a person or a public sector person, practitioner working in police, working in prosecution, working as a judge or police officer. You will not earn too much like that, those people, but you will earn the will of God. You will satisfy your conscience and you will satisfy your own mind and brain. What you have done? You have done a number of things. And that's why they have been moved on my speech. They have moved on my key notes and factors and the issues which I have shared with them. I have conducted 3 sessions with them in the last month. And my feedback to my own as a trainer is 90% plus. And it means that I have achieved positive results, making them inclined to work as probation officer, work as probation social parole officer, as a doing social work with those who have been discarded by the community. Even their family have discarded them. They are not accepted, but they may not be more revengeful to their communities and society, prevent them to indulge or digging or putting or going into black holes or putting into the vicious cycle, to prevent them, to get them out from the vicious cycle and make them as a constructive law-abiding citizen. And the feedback I received, okay, sir, you have jogged us, you have jolted us, you have jolted our mental faculties that we are not doing a less job. We are not doing a small job. We're doing a big job. When you do with people, it's the most relaxing. You are feel more satisfied when you unlearn their offending, antisocial, or deviant behavior. Thank you, Joe.
Arshad, I want to share a quick story with you that resonates with what you just mentioned as far as getting the probation and parole officer to realize the value of their position and how impactful that can be. Years ago, here in my home state of Minnesota, we realized that we were doing a fairly good job getting the probation officers to realize the impact of various cognitive behavioral programs, but we were seeing this trend of the probation officer merely referring people out to an 8-week program, to a 12-week program. But it dawned on us that we're not nearly getting enough dosage that we need to. So we are endeavoring to get the probation officer to understand, yes, in addition to those so-called off-the-shelf cognitive behavioral programs that you can and should send a client to, you as the probation officer are also a part of that process. So the theme, when we had a statewide conference rather to really push this theme, but the theme of that conference was to the probation officers, you are the intervention. When that client comes to see you, like you said, you need to alter their career trajectory. It's not just about making sure they're in compliance with court orders or that they're in compliance with probation conditions, or even your legitimate role of surveillance. You are the intervention. You're the teacher. You're the coach. And we really need to change the mindset that if your client leaves your office as a probation officer and upon reflection, you didn't really do anything to alter their career trajectory, you didn't accelerate that process of desistance, what did you really do that day? I mean, that's really your role, is to correct people. We're in corrections. But yeah, that was the theme of that conference. You're the intervention. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing, Arshad. You're instilling in those young practitioners, you have a role in changing this person's criminal trajectory. And it goes beyond simply making sure that they haven't changed their address, or that they're in compliance with chemical dependency, or that they've remained law abiding. Again, those more traditional, sounds like in your case, sort of pre-19 or, around 1960s probation stuff. It's like, no, we need to get to the world of evidence-based practices, core correctional skills. You're a coach to these clients. You're a teacher to these clients. You are the intervention.
I would like, allow me to add one important feature. Actually, probation parole officers are the designers. They are the tailors. They can tailor their society and their community at their own design. They can reshape, redesign their communities. And other thing I would like to share with you, I still have a thirst. Have some session with the Colorado Criminal Justice Training Institute. And UNODC was making efforts, sending people, but primarily they were focusing prison staff to get them trained over there. But my thirst is still there. I want to quench my thirst, being once there, and see what the innovative things they are doing. What the innovative things which I bring back to apply in our community, apply in our society, in a nation, our criminal justice system. And I would be much happier bringing that innovative approach to make it apply over here in Pakistan, and designing and shaping the criminal justice reforms according to my own mind and brains, using the other ideas of the other like-minded professionals who are very positive. And the positive probation officer, a parole officer with positive brain and vision can make the whole society positive. That's why I would like to start or initiate sort of interventions and programs in education in prison. Other factor, I would again reiterate to make you again reiterate that I am really very thirsty to once go there in Colorado Training Institute, see the people who are there working there. But the people who went there from Pakistan, they have not transmitted, or they are not utilized their ideas. Now, it's a big chance. And I'm really grateful, Joe, that you are the person. My voice is going across the world. And you, I think, conducted almost 200 episodes in the Criminologist channel. You have made a landmark in the history of the criminal justice reform. And every jurisdiction, every criminal justice jurisdiction working across the world are getting benefits of your voice. And my last word would be, if you allow me, I would like to bring changes at the grassroots levels, voicing against violence against children, violence against women, violence against girls, and the violence against getting their right to universal right to their education. And that's why I want to make my society and the society globally free of gender-biased violence, equal approach, where every person, irrespective of sex, gender, class, color, creed, or geographical or ethnicity affiliation, everybody is a person like me and you. And they need to get their benefit. They need to get their basic needs, not as if they are not privileged when we provide them basic needs. These are their fundamental rights. They have to be provided at any cost, and it requires political and state will. It should be the part of the policy and strategy of every state actors, using sort of political will, and without political or state will, we can't achieve anything better for the betterment of society.
Arshad, I love using metaphors when I train and when I teach. And with your permission, I would love to steal that metaphor that the probation officer is actually a designer, designing a safer society. Again, I think they really don't appreciate the value or the impact that they can have, not just on that client, but as you said, larger societal symptoms. Arshad Mahmood joining us all the way from Pakistan. Arshad, my friend, people can't see because this is a podcast, but you made me blush with your kind words. I am so looking forward to continuing this relationship. And of course, hoping someday to meet you in person, my friend, during one of our international travels. Arshad Mahmood, thank you again, my friend. Until we talk next time.
Thank you very much, Joe. I'm grateful for bringing me on this international rostrum and using the facility of the Criminologist channel. I'm really grateful and obliged. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arshad. Have a great day. Thank you all for tuning in to this insightful episode of the Criminologist Podcast. It was truly enlightening to delve into the origins of Pakistan's probation service and discuss the immense value of international cooperation and learning. Arshad Mahmood's perspective on viewing the role of the probation officer as a tailor or a designer with the power to shape and improve their communities is both inspiring and thought-provoking. A heartfelt thank you to Arshad for his kind words about this podcast and the work we do. It is guests like him who enrich our understanding and help us strive for better practices in the field of criminal justice. Stay tuned as we have more great guests on the horizon, ready to share their experience and expertise with you all. As always, if you have questions or comments about the podcast, feel free to contact the show via our email at thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. That's thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Criminologist Podcast. We are also on X at Crim Media Group. That's CRIM Media Group. Go ahead and give us a follow. You may also connect with me, Joseph Arvidson, or Arshad Mahmood on LinkedIn, and follow both the Criminologist Podcast and the Paragon Group on our LinkedIn pages. Hey, lastly, if you've not already done so, be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Criminologist, for additional content as to the themes of this podcast. And if you believe in what we're doing on the show, if you're part of the movement, please spread the word. Tell a friend or a coworker or a colleague about us. Ask them to subscribe to the podcast. And of course, do so yourself if you've not already done so. And always remember, folks, there's no them, there's only us.
I see you everywhere across the world. Sometimes I see in Barcelona, sometimes I see in Belgium, sometimes I see you in USA, tackling some different people. I've learned I have taken you as an iconic personality, taking vision of yours, and you are really sparked and enlightened my role and scope.
The Criminologist Podcast is a production of the Paragon Group, LLC. For speaking engagements, interviews, program design, or training opportunities, please visit us at theparagongroup.llc.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can find more content and videos on our YouTube channel, The Criminologist. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Both the Criminologist Podcast and the Criminologist channel are brought to you by the Criminologist Media Group. Be sure to give us a 5-star review, and thanks for listening.